Two people can start with almost nothing, and 10 years later, one is worth $2 million while the other is still struggling to get ahead. So what happened? Did one work harder? Did they get lucky? Did they find the right investment? Sometimes. But there's something much more important going on. The speed at which you build wealth depends on the machine you're using to make money. Some people build wealth slowly through a salary, saving, and investing. Others build businesses, take bigger risks, or own assets that can grow much faster. But here's the part nobody talks about. The faster path to wealth is often the faster path to losing it. So if you had to choose, would you rather get rich quickly or build wealth slowly enough that it becomes almost impossible to lose? Today, we're breaking down why some people get rich fast, why others get rich slowly, and most importantly, which type of wealth actually lasts. Let's imagine two people. We'll call them Alex and Marcus. Both are 25. Both start with very little money. Alex gets a stable job, making $60,000 a year. He keeps his expenses under control. Every month, he invests part of his income. He buys diversified investments. He increases his income slowly. And every time he gets a raise, he increases his investments. Nothing dramatic happens. No viral business. No overnight success. No million-dollar exit. Just consistency. Marcus takes a completely different path. He wants to get rich quickly. He starts a business. He takes risks. He works nights. He reinvests almost everything. After a few years, his business takes off. Suddenly, Marcus is making more money in 1 year than Alex has accumulated over several years. From the outside, Marcus looks like the obvious winner. But there's a problem. Marcus's wealth is concentrated. His business could fail. His customers could disappear. A competitor could destroy his margins. A recession could crush demand. Meanwhile, Alex's wealth may look boring, but it's diversified. His investments are compounding. His income is stable. His lifestyle isn't dependent on one business. And this creates one of the biggest differences between getting rich and staying rich. Getting rich is often about finding something that grows quickly. Staying rich is about building something that can survive. Here's the uncomfortable truth. The most reliable way to build wealth is incredibly boring. Earn more than you spend. Avoid destructive debt. Invest consistently. Own productive assets. Keep doing it for years. That's it. There isn't much excitement in that. Nobody makes a viral video saying, "I invested $500 every month for 25 years and became wealthy." But that's exactly the kind of story that quietly creates millions of dollars. Because wealth compounds. Imagine you invest $500 every month. At first, the results look pathetic. After 1 year, you've contributed $6,000. After 5 years, you've contributed $30,000. It doesn't feel life-changing. But then something interesting happens. Your money starts producing money. And eventually, the growth of your investments can become larger than the amount you're personally contributing. That's when compounding becomes powerful. The first few years feel slow. The later years can feel completely different. And that's why patience is such an underrated financial advantage. Most people quit during the period when the strategy looks like it's not working. They want results immediately. But wealth often works in reverse. The beginning feels slow. The middle feels frustrating. The end looks sudden. Asterisk, asterisk. That's why someone can appear to become rich overnight after 20 years of invisible preparation. Now let's talk about the other side. Because fast wealth is real. Some people genuinely become wealthy very quickly. But usually there's a reason. They own something that can scale. A salary generally scales with your time. You work more hours. You earn more money. But there's a limit. There are only 24 hours in a day. A business is different. If you build a product that can be sold to 100 people, you can potentially sell it to 10,000. Software is another example. You can build a piece of software once and potentially sell access to thousands or millions of customers. Investments can also scale. If you own a significant amount of a company that grows dramatically, your wealth can increase without you personally working more hours. That's the secret behind many rapid wealth stories. Ownership. The fastest wealth usually comes from owning something that can grow faster than your personal labor. A salary pays you for your work. Ownership pays you for the growth of an asset, and that difference is enormous. There's another factor behind fast wealth: leverage. And leverage doesn't only mean borrowing money. There are several types. Money can be leverage. Technology can be leverage. Employees can be leverage. Media can be leverage. A huge audience can be leverage. Imagine you're a consultant. You can personally work with 10 clients. That's great, but you have a time limit. Now, imagine you turn your knowledge into an online course. You create it once. 100 people can buy it. Then 1,000. Then 10,000. Your income is no longer directly connected to the number of hours you work. That's leverage. And modern technology has made leverage available to ordinary people in ways that previous generations couldn't imagine. A teenager can build an audience. A programmer can build software. A creator can reach millions. A small business can sell globally. One person can now potentially operate a business that would have required dozens of employees 20 years ago. That's why some people get rich incredibly fast. They aren't necessarily working 100 times harder. They're using a system that multiplies their effort. Here's where the story gets interesting. The same leverage that makes wealth grow quickly can make losses grow quickly. Imagine you have $10,000. You invest carefully. Maybe it grows to $11,000. That's a nice return. But suppose someone uses enormous leverage. They put $10,000 into a highly risky position, controlling $100,000. If the investment goes up 20%, they can make a huge return relative to their original money. Sounds amazing, but if it goes down 20%, the losses are enormous. And if the leverage is high enough, they can lose everything. That's why fast wealth strategies usually come with higher volatility. The same mechanism that creates extraordinary gains can create extraordinary losses. This is true in businesses too. A company can grow from $1 million to $10 million incredibly quickly, but can also go from $10 million to zero. That's why you should never confuse speed with quality. A fast-growing asset isn't automatically a good asset. And this is where social media creates a massive distortion. You see the person who made $1 million in 6 months. You don't see the thousands who tried and failed. You see the successful entrepreneur. You don't see the businesses that disappeared. You see the trader showing a huge winning position. You don't see the losses. You see the luxury car. You don't see the debt. You see the mansion. You don't see the mortgage. You see the result, but not the distribution of outcomes. This creates something called survivorship bias. The winners are visible. The losers disappear. And when you constantly see extraordinary success, normal success starts to feel like failure. Someone who quietly builds a $1 million portfolio over 25 years might feel unsuccessful because someone online claims they made $1 million in 6 months. But those aren't the same game. One is built on consistency. The other may be built on extreme risk. And you don't know what happened behind the scenes. Here's something people often overlook. Before you can invest your way to wealth, you need money to invest. That's why income matters so much. Imagine 2 people. Person A earns $40,000. Person B earns $150,000. Both save 20%. Person A invests $8,000 a year. Person B invests $30,000. Even if they earn the same investment returns, person B has a massive advantage. This is why increasing your income can be one of the fastest ways to accelerate wealth building. Learn valuable skills. Negotiate your salary. Move into higher value industries. Build a business. Create additional income. Then invest the difference. The mistake is thinking, I need to find the perfect investment. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes the biggest investment you can make is increasing your earning power, because a higher income gives you more capital to invest, and more capital creates more opportunities for compounding. Here's a dangerous idea. I need to get rich as fast as possible. That mindset can push people toward enormous risks. They borrow too much, trade too aggressively, put everything into one asset, start businesses without understanding cash flow. Buy things they can't afford because they want to look successful. And when something goes wrong, they don't just lose money. They lose years. sometimes decades. That's why the better question isn't, how fast can I get rich? It's, how quickly can I build wealth without taking a risk that could destroy me? That's a completely different question. Because if you make a 50% return, great. But if there's a 90% chance you lose everything, that's not necessarily a good investment. A strategy that compounds at a reasonable rate for decades can beat a strategy that produces huge gains and catastrophic losses. The goal isn't to win once. The goal is to stay in the game. Once someone has significant wealth, something changes. They have more capital, more connections, more knowledge, more opportunities, and importantly, more room to take calculated risks. Imagine you have $1,000. Losing $500 is devastating. But if you have $10 million, taking a $500,000 calculated risk is completely different. You also have access to opportunities that aren't available to everyone. Private investments, businesses, real estate, professional advisors, specialized knowledge, and the ability to wait. That last one is incredibly important. Poor financial decisions often happen because someone needs money immediately. Wealth gives you time, and time gives you options. That's one reason wealth tends to compound beyond just a financial return. The wealthy don't just have more money. They often have more financial flexibility. Here's an important distinction. Being rich means having a high income. Being wealthy means owning assets that can support your lifestyle. Someone can earn $500,000 a year and still be financially fragile. If they spend $490,000, they aren't building much wealth. Another person might earn $100,000, but invest $30,000 every year. Over time, the second person could become financially stronger. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep and own. And that's why some people look rich long before they actually become wealthy. The expensive car doesn't prove wealth. The house doesn't prove wealth. The designer clothes don't prove wealth. Sometimes, the person driving the 10-year-old car has a larger net worth than the person driving the brand new luxury vehicle. Because one is consuming their money. The other is accumulating assets. Now we can answer the big question. Which lasts longer? Fast wealth or slow wealth? The answer is, it depends on what created it. Fast wealth created through real ownership, strong businesses, valuable intellectual property, or productive assets can absolutely last. Slow wealth can also disappear if someone makes terrible decisions. So speed isn't the real variable. The real variables are ownership, diversification, cash flow, risk management, and behavior. Asterisk, asterisk. Someone can become wealthy quickly, then protect that wealth carefully for decades. Someone else can build wealth slowly, then destroy it with one reckless decision. So the real goal isn't simply to get rich. It's to build a system that can survive your mistakes. If you want a realistic wealth-building strategy, it often looks surprisingly boring. Increase your income. Keep your lifestyle below your income. Build an emergency fund. Avoid high-interest debt. Invest consistently. Own productive assets. Diversify. Keep learning. And give it time. Then, if you have the opportunity and the skills, add leverage. Start a business. Build intellectual property. Create content. Develop software. Buy productive assets. But don't bet your entire financial future on one idea. That's the difference between calculated risk and reckless risk. Calculated risk says, I can afford to lose this. Reckless risk says, I have to win. The second mindset is dangerous. Here's the paradox. The people most desperate to get rich quickly often make the decisions that keep them poor. They chase shortcuts. They constantly switch strategies. They buy things to look successful. They take excessive risks. They panic when investments fall. They sell when they're scared. They buy when everyone else is excited. Meanwhile, the person quietly saving and investing every month doesn't look impressive. Nobody notices until 20 years later, and suddenly everyone asks, how did they get so rich? The answer usually isn't one incredible decision. It's hundreds of ordinary decisions, repeated for a very long time. That's what makes wealth so frustrating. It's simple, but it's not easy, because humans are naturally attracted to excitement. We want a big opportunity. The next stock, the next business, the next cryptocurrency, the the next shortcut. But wealth often rewards the opposite behavior: patience, discipline, consistency, and the ability to ignore noise. So let's go back to Alex and Marcus. Marcus got rich faster. His business exploded. He made millions. But then he made a huge mistake. He assumed the money would keep coming. His lifestyle expanded. His expenses grew. He bought expensive assets. He stopped diversifying. And when the business hit a downturn, his wealth disappeared much faster than it had appeared. Alex took the slower route. He never became famous. He never had a huge financial breakthrough. But he kept investing. He increased his income. He avoided catastrophic losses. He stayed consistent. 25 years later, Alex had something more valuable than a big number on a screen: financial independence. And that's the real lesson. The goal of wealth isn't to win the fastest. It's to reach a point where money stops controlling every decision you make. So why do some people get rich fast while others get rich slowly? Because they aren't playing the same game. Some rely on labor. Others rely on ownership. Some use capital. Others use leverage. Some take enormous risks. Others let compounding do the heavy lifting. But here's the part one want you to remember. Getting rich quickly is impressive. Staying rich is the real skill. The fastest path can make you wealthy in 5 years, or bankrupt in 5 months. The slow path can feel painfully boring until you look back 20 years later and realize the boring strategy quietly changed your entire life. So don't ask, how can I get rich as fast as possible? Ask, how can I build wealth fast enough to matter, but safely enough to keep? Because real wealth isn't about having one lucky year. It's about building something that survives bad years too. Increase your income. Own assets. Use leverage carefully. Protect yourself from catastrophic losses. And most importantly, stay in the game. Because you don't need to get rich overnight. You just need to become financially stronger every year for long enough that eventually the results become impossible to ignore. And that's the strange thing about wealth. At first, nothing seems to happen. Then, everything happens at once.